What's up there, Workforce? Chris here with Work to Game, and today we are talking about your comments on my initial response to the tanking changes. So I put out a video, an opinion piece on kind of just what I'm thinking about tanks. My initial reaction is in light of having capped my first tank, working on my second tank, been in a lot of parties with tanks, and just talking to everybody here in the community, kind of what my thoughts were in the light of that. I was really kind of worried about tanks after they announced the changes, after going to the media tour, that I had some concerns, and that for the large part those had been abated. So let's go ahead and dive in on our first comment from Alex Couch. Dear Gunbreaker, I hate your invuln. It's called Super Bolide. You got that right. Sincerely, a white mage who has wasted benediction only to watch you go to 1 HP seconds later. That button is like a split-second decision thing, and so I love being in voice because I can say I'm going to use it. I tend to call it my home gang because I'm still a warrior at heart, but I know it drops us down, and then you've got, a couple of seconds there to basically get us back up. I usually, as it's about to tick off, try to put out a few, I usually try to loop another cooldown right off the back of it personally, so that if you only have me at partial health, I don't immediately lose that. So I usually right as it's about to tick off, but we have a ton of cooldowns, and so that is just one of them. The only reason I use it is because I've overpulled, and so usually around that time I've already marked a target. I'm doing all the things that I can to try to remove the damage, but overpulling is a really easy thing to do now because it's kind of what they're encouraging. We'll get into that. Kenny Noel, I recommend having commentary over gameplay. So in community feedback, we don't do that, so this one, but it's a great tip. So in this one, we just have a comment down below, and it's me responding to your stuff. But in opinion pieces, I can definitely look at having more gameplay involved, and it's a totally valid recommendation. There's no reason not to do it. No reason to do it. Just something that I'll definitely take a look at moving forward. So thank you. Kobil, Scholar Main here. Greatly dislike how tanks have not adapted to the difficulty of large pools. They still suicide pull 3 to 4 camps and expect our healing to be godly and that they can stand there and do nothing like Heaven's Word or Storeblood before it. Only through sheer utility and panic buttons do I get through some of these dungeons. I hate tanking for warriors. I don't know why, but I can never keep them alive. Dark Knights are still my favorite to tank to heal for, with Gunbreaker being second most, but I think that's because they both seem to have SOS buttons. Have not healed for a Paladin, oddly enough. That is odd. It's my tank job, so we'll see. So we'll see what it's like when you finish leveling to 80. Awesome. I hope you enjoy Paladin. Everybody seems to. Paladin seems really, really good coming out of the gates here in the expansion. Paladin and Gunbreaker seem to be the top two from at least what I'm running with. That seems to be the two that really like that. So I'm glad Gunbreaker's doing that well. As for us mass pulling, enmity is basically gone now. It's so easy to keep threat now. And with that, that means that to add excitement back in, we have to add it through the content. So when I say I'm enjoying tanking, that's because I found a way to enjoy tanking. And the way I'm enjoying it is that a lot of these dungeons, like Amaro, for example, allows me to pull an insane number of things and then work to keep myself alive, keep myself out of range of things, call out target priorities, don't stand in bad, loop in my cooldowns. Different tanks have a different amount of those. Gunbreaker, for example, I can basically have a cooldown rotation going on behind the scenes that seems to last forever, and it's exciting, but it is harder on the healers. I will say that one of the things that encourages us to do it is through sheer utility and panic buttons, you get through the dungeons. Well, if it's working, it definitely encourages me to go, yeah, let's do that again. That was super fun. So I can understand that from the other side, and when I level up my white mage coming up here after Dancer, maybe I'll have a little more of an understanding of what tanks are doing, because at that point we'll be over geared, so speed pulling will be the trend by then, if it's not already. And yeah, I look forward to kind of seeing if maybe when I'm on the other side of the coin I don't like it as much. But for now, I'm like, if you can take it, I'm going to pull it. That's my natural born reaction. And I slow it down when I see us either nearly wiping or wiping. And other than that, I just want to keep pulling. Let's just get those tomes, get out, enjoy the path along the way. Keeping myself alive is super fun. If I'm not keeping myself alive, if I'm not using my cooldowns and I'm standing in things, that's my problem. But if I'm doing a good job mitigating and stuff, then most healers have been able to keep me up. Soul Reaper. got both your Dark Knight and Gunbreaker to 80. You love your Dark Knight, but you're not really loving the changes. True, Dark Knight gets 10% damage increase when Dark Arts is on, but the 1-2-3 rotation is boring. True, you got Frey, but it'll fill your blood gauge way faster than the abilities you have to use it. Only 3 weapon skills on the slash combo. Everything else are abilities, meaning skill speed melds won't help. Skill speed seems to only help Gunbreakers. That's what I've seen. Just to take a note on that. Also, you only have 3 cooldowns for mitigation, and one of those are shared there. Reprisal still works, but you're missing that awareness and convalescence. I miss convalescence too. I actually still had it on my bar until today. I took it off with the red slash through it because I finally needed that button back. Overall, it's a good class, still just simple to do. I guess that's why I'm a bit frustrated. Took finesse to master this class. Now anyone can do it. Gunbreaker's on point. Loving this class. If Pally and Dark Knight had a baby, this would be it. It's edgy, great DPS, flash pull, can pull a ton of mobs. Oh my gosh, the pull radius. Lots of weapon skills you can weave ultra combos in. Cooldowns are great. Awesome. Oh, and please put out a video guide on tanking on 101. We have done that several times. We have put out Afraid to Tank. We've put it out, but we do plan on putting out more. I know Bryan's kind of working on some. I know that I have some kind of long-term that I want to build. They're going to take a little bit longer. We want to really be thorough this time around and make them into a series so that they're kind of a handbook to refer to, because you're running into a lot of new tanks that need guidance and want to listen to more. They don't want to listen to more experienced tanks. Especially, I can understand that. Like, if they're in a dungeon hearing from somebody who's not tanking, it's like, well, then you do it. And so maybe videos can be the voice of reason. Sure. I find that sometimes a third party that's not invested in my dungeon or something I can listen to. Like, if I go out to Discord and I say, yeah, this guy in this dungeon said this, and then people are like, well, yeah. I'm like, oh. Why? And then they explain it to me. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So, like, sometimes just hearing it from a third party does feel less aggressive when you're taking it on. I don't play Dark Knight. Bryan's taking that one, and I'm not going to get to play Paladin. So for those of you that haven't seen our job draft list, we each drafted 9 of the jobs, so the 17 battle jobs plus Blue Mage, so that we could get the guides to you faster. And so I got 2 of the tanks, and he got 2 of the tanks. So I've got my Warrior Cap. I'm finishing up Gunbreaker. Bryan is coming up on done with, I think he's doing Paladin first, and then he'll do Dark Knight right behind it. And then we'll have guides out on both of those. And then we plan on putting out maybe some collaborative series where we kind of compare what we like and don't like about the 2 tanks we each got, kind of bouncing off each other, because waiting for one of us to level up all our jobs to the point that we feel comfortable making guides, because it's not just hitting cap, it's hitting cap, getting geared, learning the content, feeling comfortable. And that's over 17 jobs. That's just a lot more than we can do since, we still have day jobs. So hopefully that makes sense. We'd love to make those guides. I heard Dark Knight wasn't good last expansion, and then it was the first to clear Ultimate. So, like, balance will change things, and if you like it, there is a way. I do think there will always be a best tank and a worst tank, because that's just the nature of things. If they have their own unique identity, they are inherently not balanced. But they do a pretty good job in this game of keeping them reasonable and not just letting one of the tanks out to dry. So I think it should work out long term, and once we see Savage, that'll give us a real feel for if one of the tanks is not viable. Even in Titania X, you see things where, like, certain tanks can kind of take those Fey lights easier than others. So getting through even the extremes is starting to reveal where some tanks have more power than others, that since we don't have a public test realm, that gives Square more concrete evidence of, okay, here's what the average player is doing, here's what our top end groups are doing, and can start reacting to that. And hopefully by 5.1 or 5.2, they can bring down some balance. I can tell you as a warrior, I would love for my gap closer to not use up my beast gauge, because Felcleave is basically all warrior is now. We're just a Felcleave machine more than ever, and anything that stops me from Felcleaving is what keeps us. I'm pretty sure we're at the bottom of the DPS for tanks right now. Definitely feels like it. We're way down there. You got to really squeak it out if you're comparing to a tank of equal gearing. And when I switched to my Gunbreaker, I immediately noticed the difference in the way the dungeons pull and everything like that. My Gunbreaker feels so much stronger than my Warrior. And so I look forward to, and then when I ran with a Paladin while I was leveling up my Dancer a little, I was just blown away by what they could get away with. Cat Savage, you love how your videos have so many calls to arms for tanks. There is no better time to learn to tank. There are plenty of times in our guides that you can see mistakes in my rotation. When I edit my videos, I was sitting in Discord chatting with people. I was editing my video the other day, and I was like, and I just said out loud, I was like, this tank is garbage. And they're like, who are you talking about? And I was like, oh, me. I was editing one of my raid guides, and like, in the process of when I film a raid guide, when I'm shooting it, I'm trying to watch where my camera is. It's usually a brand new fight. We try to come out with guides on stuff like that day one. So it's a brand new fight. So I'm watching for the mechanics myself. I'm trying to make sure I'm not making mechanic-based mistakes. And then I'm trying to make sure that I'm paying attention to what everybody else is doing and looking at, is something affecting the healer? Is something, so my camera angle's at a weird angle. And so there's a lot going on, and I'm already not a perfect tank. Even when I'm not filming, I'm not a perfect tank. And so when you add on top of that, there are a ton of mistakes in my videos, and we're still getting the clear. Like the normal content is incredibly tolerant, and so it does not require perfection to tank. So if your fear is, well, I'll never be that good, don't worry about it. You don't have to be. I would rather somebody be an average tank seeking improvement, seeking learning, but not there yet, than us be sitting in big, long tank queues. Waiting for that adventure and need when it goes back to that, when the newness of Gunbreaker wears off. And there will be people who stay Gunbreakers, but it won't be everybody who's currently playing Gunbreaker. So I'm happy to encourage tanks in any way I can. I just started learning tanking in the middle to end of Stormblood, and that was my first time to really tank in a game. And Titania Extreme was my first time to ever tank, I guess, like real content, like the aggressive, the Savage Extremes, when it was relevant. I tried a couple Savages and stuff last expansion, but didn't get the down as my tank. Didn't get the clear. And so this will be my first tier to probably get some clears, if I think about it. I guess I tried Rathalos Extreme. I tried Tsukiyomi. Yeah. So, I'm not a perfect tank. More than willing to admit that. Why am I making a video about tanks and I haven't played them all? This video isn't giving an in-depth analysis about tanks. It is more just your personal opinion. If you guys are going to be putting out this many videos, it needs to be something of substance and not just your personal experience and view. New players are looking for guides that provide an in-depth analysis with data to show them the full picture. So we actually do have a schedule, and it changes from time to time, and we don't publish it right now because we're in the middle of kind of adjusting it. And so right now, if like we need to adjust it on the fly, if the moment we post it to you guys, we feel like we have to stick to it. But we put out 2 videos a day at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Central. We talked about moving the 1 p.m. a little further back, but that's based around kind of just what the analytics tell us when you guys watch them is. So we're happy to publish them whenever. So we're just trying to listen to YouTube on what the best times to publish are. But it's 2 videos every day of the week. And that includes at least 1 podcast, at least one of these community feedbacks, a bunch of guides, and a bunch of opinions. And the opinions are on all sorts of things. They could be news topics. They could be on other games. They can be on Final Fantasy. And when they're on Final Fantasy, they can be on, what our thoughts and impressions are on a piece of content or on a job or on something like that. And they are exactly that. They are personal experience and view. So we've tried to start labeling them better in their titles. We've tried to start labeling them better in their thumbnails, and to help you guys avoid them if you like or don't like a particular part of our content cycle, because we do put out 60 plus videos a month, and so it's a crazy amount. And so I assume there are people in this community that like 5 to 10 of our videos a month, and that's enough to stay subscribed and stick around. But we probably overwhelmingly post on things they don't like, and I want to make it easy for them to avoid those and just seek out the things that really matter to them and share those with maybe other people like them, and can form just on that one section of our community. You don't have to like all 60 posts. I don't see all 60 of our posts because I get behind, and sometimes I miss stuff that Bryan posts, and I don't expect him to watch everything I post. So it isn't giving an in-depth analysis. It is just my personal opinion. This early on, that is all I can post on. In-depth analysis, like I'm just now getting to where I can comfortably clear the Stone, Sky, Sea, Air target dummy with my warrior. My warrior is far from I'm still sub 440, and that average, it comes from having a bunch of slots that I don't have the Gosha tomes to replace them yet. So I wouldn't mind getting my gear up a little more. And then after my gear overall crosses 440 on my main, which is hard to do because I try to get my expert in more days than not, and that's about it. And other than that, I focus on leveling because, like you said, I also want to get to other classes. So it could take us a long time. It could take us longer than it takes you guys to level your classes. We play as often as we can play, and we have a lot of things we want to focus on. Putting out guides on, I want to finish up my miner soon and start putting out some gathering guides because I have my Fisher and my botanistic cap. I want to talk about the new fate systems more. I want to talk about so much changes. What do the hunts feel like? What do just all sorts of things. Not to mention that we're getting more content all the time. We're going to be getting some new crafting content, I assume, with Savage. We're going to be getting a ton in 5.1. So like, it's going to be a while before I level all my classes. And that means along the way, as I level them, I'll share my opinion, but I will try to make it clear where I'm at. I'll try to constantly state so that you have some context with maybe whether or not you should value my opinion. If you feel like you're in the same boat, maybe that's the same opinion. If you're in a different boat, then maybe that tells you why your views might not line up with mine. So hopefully that helps explain this. It absolutely, you are 100% right. It is just a personal opinion, and that is it. We put out this many videos, but they're not all guides. The beauty of putting out this many videos is it gets us a chance to sit and talk and just talk, and it gets us a chance to do guides and help people. I know Bryan rolled out his Scholar Controller guide this week. That is the first of the class guides to roll out. We have like 4 to 6 videos planned for every single class, which is some obnoxiously large number total, and it will take us a long time to get to all of them, but we are working through them. My plan in order is to release my warrior stuff, which I'm getting my guides all written, and I want to be sure they're thorough and, as you put it, in-depth analysis with data to show the full picture. That is the dream, to kind of present as much as possible. As a PS4 player, I don't have meters, so I'm a little limited on that, but I can show potencies, I can show where the meters come from, I can show why doing Dancing Plague Extremes, Stone Sky Sea is a good rough indicator of kind of where your DPS is at when you're not in an active dungeon environment. And then you can back that off by how much of the percentage you're moving. And then I run things with people who are running meters to kind of give me some feedback there. So I'm doing my best. And hopefully you guys can be patient. And then as we get through them, we'll start to form bigger opinions about like, okay, what is tanking doing overall in Shadowbringers, and hopefully be able to provide more in-depth guides on that as well. Raymond, I'm just a WoW transplant, just getting started. Do you think tanking is easier on PC or console? I have a few friends that already play on PS4 and was thinking of joining them. So I play on PS4 with keyboard and mouse. Bryan plays on PC with controller. So I think that how it's controlled probably has more to do with how easy it is to pick up than the platform you play on. The only restriction to PS4 is that I can't have add-ons that are technically not supposed to be on PC either, according to their TOS. So that's the only real restriction. Otherwise, it's totally fine. Oftentimes, I'm playing on my capture card on my Mac while my PS4 does the work, so that I'm capturing things. So I'm looking at my Mac with a keyboard and mouse in front of me. I'm going to be picking up the Mac client to review that soon. Just haven't gotten that yet. I've been mostly focused on I haven't had time to, I don't want to get it until I'm ready to take on what it takes to get my interface and everything set up, because I don't know, I might as well wait and see if it goes on sale if I'm not ready to make the guides on it. So I am not sure that it makes a difference at all. There are, PC has more buttons. PC is probably where the majority of your top end players play, but honestly, if you can stay out of mechanics and you put out the rotation, I don't care what you're using to do it. So it's just different, just to your preference. And with PS4, you can always go get a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse with like a little USB stick. Super easy, reasonably priced. And then you're right back at playing like you're on PC without having to go. And that is cheaper than going and buying a new client of 14, because you would have to buy a new client to switch to PC. So I would just get it on whatever platform you want and then find a way to get to the control scheme that feels most comfortable. Tom, you guys gonna update controller guides for DKs? It just started, and I'm trying to figure out what everything does at the moment. Yes, so Dark Knight is Bryan's second tank, and so he'll do Paladin, then Dark Knight. He's doing Summoner Scholar first, because that's his main, and then I believe he's diving into tanks next, and then after that, I think Machinist, but I don't know. You'd want to check back in with him if that's still his plan of record. I know that was kind of one of the plans that that's subject to change, and a lot of that has to do with like if I'm tanking and I need people, he'll come run as like a Machinist to pick up free experience, because I'm going to give him a shorter queue time. If like I have a healer or something, if I have a pocket healer and everything, then yeah, come along as your Machinist. Go ahead and pick that experience up. So whatever hits cap, that'll be when he does those guides. My plan is to do my 2 tanks first. So you'll be having those. So hopefully, and then I'll be doing controller guides on those as well. I have not played controller since ARR. So it's going to take some adjusting, and I am not going to be putting out my controller setup until I can clear the Stone Sea Sky just as well on a controller as I can on keyboard. So it's going to take a lot of practice. I want to feel comfortable running dungeons on it, and I want to feel comfortable running it with Stone Sky Sea out there in Kalusha. Charles, for the whole, it's better. Now, people were afraid to tank because their main worry was losing aggro is gone, but for the individual, it sucks. To me, tanking is a face roll now, and it seems they made it harder on healers. Tanks that don't get the concept of using cooldowns during big pools are flopping over dead faster than a jump lock Dragoon and then yelling at the healers. It made them easier to play, yes, but it's more stressful on the healers, not to mention it sapped the fun out of healing in general. Don't believe me? Go look at Astrologian and the DPS output on Scholar. These are my opinions, but valid complaints I've been hearing from tanks and healers alike. So healers who believed that what made healing fun was DPS are probably going to struggle with this expansion. Healers who liked healing because they liked the APM of healing, and that used to be done by doing DPS, and have now shifted that to focus on healing, are probably going to do fine this expansion, because I don't think this is going away. They have definitely said, okay, as Bryan's been calling them green DPS, these people who ran healers because they like casters and they like short queue times, and they're like, well, I get enough DPS to satisfy me, but mostly I like doing the DPS and I like having short queue times. And so they run in there as healers and they do that. Well, that group of people has been shifted to being blue DPS. You have a bunch of melee DPS people who have switched to tank because they think it's going to be a shorter queue time, and long term it probably will be. That doesn't excuse them from bad play. The tanks aren't broken because tanks are not using their cooldowns. They gave us the cooldowns. That's the player. So hopefully they can kind of help encourage that behavior. Tanks should be using their cooldowns. Your cooldowns don't hurt your damage to use. So, kind of keeping your cooldowns on rotation is one more action for people to do. I have not been dying. I wipe when I go in with a healer that's undergeared and a little new. They tell me, hey, I'm just figuring out this healer thing, and I slow down and we're fine. It's fine. So, and honestly, if I get a white mage I have not had a single white mage that cannot keep up with my pulling. And so maybe that's just my luck, but like white mages, for example, are absurd. We just go nuts. We just pull. It feels like they're putting out DPS and they're keeping me up. So way to go, white mage. If one of the other healers ends up coming out on top of them, I'll be shocked, because I personally would choose white mage just based off my personal experience. As my own pocket healer. As a warrior, if I could run with any group, it would be a black mage, a white mage, and then dancer, because that seems to be a group that I can just mass pull and it goes down. And so that's just a really fun group to tank for. But tanking is really boring if you're single pulling now, because you don't have to manage cooldowns, and that's about it. My rotation is fairly simple when I sit on a dummy. Where it gets interesting is when you start putting in mitigation and you start putting in positioning and you start mass pulling, because there's a lot of AoE that goes on the ground. There's a lot of target priority where, I've got to be, I like to call out what target I want to die next. And so that's just one more button press. I have bound to Shift A, the number one. And so, mid pull, I'm pushing Shift A. So that's one more thing that my left hand has to be doing while pushing my directional keys, while pushing my cooldowns, while also keeping my rotation somewhat alive. So that's how I've made tanking exciting, and I'm enjoying tanking as long as that's possible. If that gets taken away somehow by gear getting better, which I don't think it will, then I think I'd be really bummed. But I think the fact that we're already able to chain pull, and it's exciting when you chain pull, then I'm in for an expansion that I personally will like it. But I totally understand why tanks are going to be frustrated, because enmity, which is something core and unique to tanking, is basically gone. Nep, you guys got to invite Skill up for a podcast, his first impression since he's in Heavensward now. I cannot believe how he's so thorough. We're really lucky to have him interested in this game as far as like what it'll do for the game and the community. He puts out incredible reviews. If you guys are not watching Skill Up, you should be. And so I really look forward to his thoughts. And in order to get his thoughts, he doesn't just read a bunch of Reddit posts. He doesn't just ask people. He doesn't just dabble in the demo. One of the things that makes him unique, and I have no idea how he finds the time, is he goes and he dives in deep. When I watched him stream, and he's trying out side quests, he cleared part of his hunting log, he's trying out a leave quest, he's doing all of these things, even though people in chat are like, you don't have to do that anymore, that's not worth it, that's not good experience, and chat's not wrong, but he's like, you know what, I want to have the full experience, I want to try all of this. And so looking forward to his first impressions is something I'm definitely looking forward to. And if you guys are not following Skill Up, he's a great source of just kind of keeping up on games, and I trust him more than most reviewers now. As far as inviting for this podcast, we don't really publicly invite anybody, but I can tell you that pretty much any gaming creator that is somebody I would like to watch, I want on the podcast. We are booked through September already, and it's only July, and we have more invites on the way out, and we go back and forth. We do all that privately, so if they want to say no, they can, whether that be because it's not going to work with the time conflict, especially people who aren't located here in North America, because time zones make it hard. Streamers also, for example, have really valuable time because they only make money when they're live, and so any hour they put with us, as opposed to more of like YouTubers or something where their income's more residual, so as long as it doesn't jack with their editing schedule, they're fine. And we want to invite more creators on. So if you guys have suggestions, we do appreciate them. We do hear them, although we may not be real open about like, oh, we've already invited them, or, oh, we definitely want them, because I don't want them to feel pressured to come on the podcast. But just know that any creator that we have respect for or has an interesting position in the space, or both, we definitely want on the podcast. We want to talk to pretty much anybody related to gaming. That's the plan. So we once a week limits us to 52 guests a year, and the fact that we like having some guests on again multiple times limits us even further. But maybe there's a day in the future where we can have it more than once a week, and that's more just a time constraint right now. And so just kind of a little behind the scenes on kind of what that takes and how we decide who to invite, just around this comment. Wilson, Gunbreaker feels kind of stupidly OP right now. 71 seconds of defensive cooldowns when rotated properly, leaving only a small gap before they're up again, and an 800 potency off the global cooldown every 30 seconds is a little strong. It doesn't need a huge nerf, just like 5 or 10%. I don't think that a new job should feel as weak as Dancer does. I think a new job should feel as strong as Gunbreaker does. Red Mage and Samurai kind of felt that way to me. Like out of the gate, it just felt like everybody was like, oh my god, they're amazing. That kind of first initial impressions the first week, and I don't think it stayed that way. I feel like Samurai took a hit. I don't know. I don't follow the meta very well, but I don't mind. I think new jobs should feel OP. I think new jobs should be really fun and exciting, and part of what makes them fun and exciting is they're good at clearing content. Long term, I think they should be brought back into play, and I think that honestly, having tried the extremes, looking forward to Savage, I think that it is very likely that they will need to bring whatever tanks end up at the bottom up rather than push those down, because it feels like the content is plenty punishing, and keeping people weaving defensive cooldowns is the only thing making tanking exciting right now. So nerfing them might send the wrong message when they finally have people excited about tanking. But that's my personal opinion, and I am loving Gunbreaker, so if it's because it's stupidly OP, then so be it. But I am loving it. It's a lot of buttons. So on that note, guys, that is the last comment of the day. These are community feedbacks. These are about your comments and responding to them directly. We try to read every comment. Some days we just get too many, so it's not that we're trying to miss them. And some days it's because too many. It doesn't even have to be that many comments. It could just be that we're busy, because Bryan and I both have jobs outside of YouTube that we have to go do, and that just takes time. And so there are days that I don't get to do a lot of YouTube. There are days I don't get to do a lot of Final Fantasy or WoW or whatever I'm playing. And of course, that's a bummer. But yeah, we try our best, and these are a chance to kind of give back to you guys. They typically run 10 to 40 minutes long. It's just a chance to ramble off. They have the yellow little icon. So if you want to seek those out, that's what the yellow little icon in the corner is meaning. And yeah, we're just trying to run those. We try to run them on Fridays, trying to get at least one a week, continuing to say thank you to guys. We really appreciate the comment section and how active it is, how polite and reasonable it is. Even when people disagree with each other, it in general stays so much more positive than other corners of the internet where I find myself sometimes. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic day. Thanks to all of those that left comments on both the video I'm commenting on and on others, because I had a tough choice deciding which video to make the community feedback on this week. And that's because there's a lot of good conversations going on right now. So I hope you guys are enjoying the Eden raid. That's something that we got to talk about with with Larry Czar, and so that'll be going live on Monday. And then our next guest will be Mr. Happy on the podcast as we prep for Savage. And so talking about the status of different things in the game and systems is definitely what kind of, the next couple guests will be able to shed a little light on. So I hope you're looking forward to that. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.
What's going on, Workforce? Chuck here. It's been a good long month, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. I just wanted to invite my friend Terry, the T-Rex from Texas, out here. Howdy, y'all. How's it going? This is a really fun end screen video. We should have written a script, right, Chuck? Oh, I agree totally. In fact, I think both our voices sound exactly the same. What are we to do? I don't know. I think we need to get a better voice actor. Yes, I agree. Which one of us is talking? Ah. They're still here. What are we gonna do? I guess we're gonna stop and record.